I, Willie Mutunga, the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya and the President of the Supreme Court, I wish now to confirm that the President-elect is Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta.
I, Uhuru Kenyatta,
asante sana, anakabidhiwa viapo ambavyo ameapa.
I, William Samoei Ruto, do swear that I will do justice
to all without fear,
Amekuwa amiri jeshi mkuu wa majeshi yote ya ulinzi ya Kenya. Haya, tumshangilie kwa makofi. Shangwe. Amekabidhiwa pia nakala ya katiba ya Kenya. Haya, makofi.
His Excellency for a brief prayer.
We want to pray, Heavenly Father, for their families.
Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Swift Media. My name is MJK. And today we get to know more about President Uhuru Kenyatta, who is the 4th President of Kenya. We'll get to know more about his life, where he was born, early life, political life, controversies. We'll get to know more about the National Alliance Party TNA. We'll get to know more about 2013 presidential election and also his presidency. We'll also get to know more about the challenges in his government for the past 10 years. We'll also get to know more about his foreign trips, wealth, approval ratings, awards, and we'll also get to know more about references and his marriage. So stay tuned as we start this interesting story about His Excellency the President of Kenya, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Please subscribe and tell us what you think about this story down on the comment section. Uhuru Kenyatta was born 26th October 1961 to the future first President of Kenya, Jomo Kenyatta, and his 4th wife, Mama Ngina Kenyatta. The second born in the family, he has 2 sisters, Christine, who was born in 1953, Anna Nyokabi, who was born in 1963, and a brother, Muhoho Kenyatta, who was born in 1965. His family hails from the Kikuyu, a Bantu ethnic group. His given name Uhuru is from the Swahili term for freedom and was given to him in anticipation of Kenya's upcoming independence. Uhuru attended St. Mary's School in Nairobi between 1979 and 1980. He also briefly worked as a teller at the Kenya Commercial Bank. After attending St. Mary's School, Uhuru went to study economics, political science, and government at Amherst College in United States. Upon his graduation, Uhuru returned back to Kenya and started a company, Wilhelm Kenya Limited, through which he sourced and exported agricultural produce. Uhuru was nominated to parliament in 2001. He then became a minister of local government under President Daniel Arap Moi, and despite his political experience, was favored by Moi as his successor. Kenyatta ran as KANU's candidate in the December 2002 presidential election, but lost to the opposition candidate Mwai Kibaki by a big margin. He subsequently became a leader of opposition in parliament. He backed Honorable Mwai Kibaki for election in 2007 presidential election and was named Minister of Local Government by former President Mwai Kibaki in January 2008 before being appointed as the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Trade in April 2008 as part of the new coalition government. Subsequently, Uhuru Kenyatta was a Minister of Finance from 2009 to 2002 while remaining Deputy Prime Minister. A accused by the International Crime Court (ICC) of committing crimes against humanity in relation to the violence of the 2007 election. He resigned as the Minister of Finance on 26th January 2012. He was elected as the President of Kenya in March 2013 presidential election, defeating Raila Odinga with a slim majority in a single round of voting. Political life. In 1997 general election, Uhuru Kenyatta contested for the Gatundu South constituency parliamentary seat, once held by his father, but lost to Moses Mwehia, a Nairobi architect. In 1999, Moi appointed Uhuru as a chair at the Kenya Tourism Board, a government parastatal. In 2001, he was nominated as a member of parliament and he joined the cabinet as Minister of Local Government. He would also later be elected first Vice Chairman of KANU. In the nomination process in 2002, in what was widely thought as undemocratic and underhand, Moi influenced Uhuru Kenyatta's nomination as KANU's preferred presidential candidate, sparking the outreach from other interested contenders, and a massive exit from the party ensued. This move by the late President Moi was seen as a ploy to install Uhuru as a puppet, so that even if retirement, Moi would still rule the country through Uhuru and presumably insulate himself against the numerous charges of abuse of office that plagued his presidency. Uhuru finished second to Mwai Kibaki in his general election with 31% of vote, and he conceded defeat and took up an active leadership role as a leader of the opposition. In January 2005, Uhuru Kenyatta defeated Nicholas Biwott for chairmanship of KANU, taking 2,980 votes among party delegates against Biwott's 622 votes. Uhuru led his party KANU in the referendum campaigns against the draft constitution in 2005, having teamed up with the Liberal Democratic Party, a rebel function in the Mwai Kibaki government, to form the Orange Democratic Movement (ODM). The results, this was a vote against the adoption of the draft constitution by noticeable margin, which was a great political embarrassment to Emilio Mwai Kibaki. In November 2006, Kenyatta was displaced as KANU leader by the late Nicholas Biwott. On 28th October 2006, the High Court of Kenya reinstated Uhuru Kenyatta as KANU chairman. However, further court proceedings followed. On 28th June 2007, the High Court confirmed Kenyatta as a party leader, ruling that there was insufficient evidence for Biwott's argument that Kenyatta had joined another party. In the run-up of the 2007 general election, he led KANU to join a coalition called Party of National Unity (PNU) with President Mwai Kibaki, who was running for second term against Raila Odinga. PNU won the controversial 2007 election, but the dispute over the poll resulted in 2007 to 2008 Kenyan crisis. Under the agreement between the two parties to end the chaos, Kibaki remained as a president in a power-sharing agreement with Raila Odinga as a prime minister, while Uhuru Kenyatta was Kibaki's choice as a deputy prime minister and minister of finance in his share of cabinet slots. ICC prosecutor Luis Moreno Ocampo charged Uhuru, who was a PNU leader, as an indirect cooperator in the violence that followed the 2007 to 2008 Kenyan crisis, and the charges were confirmed on 23rd January 2012. The prosecutor also charged William Ruto, who had been a supporter of ODM rivals of the PNU in 2007 election. Uhuru resigned as a Minister of Finance upon the confirmation of charges, but maintained his innocence. The charges were dropped on 13th March 2015 for lack of evidence. On 13th September 2007, Uhuru Kenyatta withdrew from the December 2007 presidential election in favor of Kibaki for re-election. He said that he did not want to run unless he could be sure of winning. Following the election, amidst the controversy that resulted, the Kibaki was declared the victor despite claims of fraud from challenger Raila Odinga and his Orange Democratic Movement (ODM). Kibaki appointed Kenyatta as a Minister of Local Government on January 2008, tarehe 8 hiyo, after Kibaki and Odinga reached a power sharing agreement. Kenyatta was named Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Trade on 13th April 2008 and as a part of the Grand Coalition Cabinet. He was the Deputy Prime Minister representing the PNU, while another Deputy Prime Minister, Musalia Mudavadi, represented the ODM. Kenyatta and the rest of the cabinet were sworn in on 17th April. Uhuru Kenyatta was later moved from a local government and appointed Minister of Finance on 23rd January 2009. During his tenure, he spearheaded a number of reform measures that changed how Treasury and the government, by extension, transact business, such as the Integrated Financial Management Information System (IFMIS) and a fund for the inclusion of the informal sector in the mainstream economy. In 2013, Uhuru Kenyatta was elected as the fourth president of Kenya under the National Alliance (TNA), which was the part of the Jubilee alliance with his running mate William Ruto's United Republic Party (URP). Uhuru and Ruto won 50.07% votes cast, with closest rival Raila Odinga and running mate Kalonzo Musyoka of the Coalition for Reforms and Democracy, generating 42%. Raila Odinga disputed the election results at the Supreme Court, which however held 7-0 that the election of Uhuru was valid and such irregularities as existed did not make a difference to the final outcome. Uhuru Kenyatta was therefore sworn in as president on 9th April 2013. Uhuru ran for president in the election held on 4th March 2013 and garnered 6,173,433 votes, which was 50.03% out of the 12,338,667 votes cast, as this was above the 50% plus 1 vote threshold. He won the election in the first round, thus avoiding a runoff between the top two candidates. He was therefore declared the fourth president of Kenya by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission (IEBC). According to the IEBC, Raila Odinga gathered 5,340,546 votes, which was 43.4%, and was thus the second in the field of 8 candidates. Called under the leadership of presidential candidate Raila Odinga logged the petition with the Supreme Court of Kenya on March 10, 2013, challenging Uhuru's election. On 30th March 2013, Dr. Willy Mutunga, the Chief Justice of Kenya, read anonymous Supreme Court ruling declaring the election of Uhuru Kenyatta and his running mate William Ruto as valid. On August 11, 2013, the chairman of IEBC, Wafula Chebukati, announced Uhuru re-election to second term in the office during the 2017 Kenya general election with 54% of popular vote. This was later contested into court and annulled. In the events that followed the annulment, Kenyatta was seen as lacking direction and being reactionary leader. Following this annulment, a second election was required in which Uhuru Kenyatta won with 98% of the vote with 39% voter turnout. On March 9th, 2018, Uhuru Kenyatta agreed to truce between the opposition leader Raila Odinga. This action marked country's watershed moment that redrew its political architecture. On 27th November 2019, Uhuru Kenyatta launched the Building Bridges Initiative (BBI) in Bomas of Kenya. This is one of the outcomes as a result of the truce with the opposition leader Raila Odinga, as its implementations will foresee some amendments in the Kenyan constitution. Let's move into controversies. Although it has been claimed that Uhuru was one of the few ministers who had no scandals attached to their name, on 29th April 2009, he faced a controversial scare after he presented a supplemental budget that was inadvertently approved by the parliament. The budget was aimed to bridge the budgetary gap that was arisen due to slow economic growth. The government required an additional of 38 billion Kenyan shillings but compromised on a figure of 22 billion Kenyan shillings, and non-essential proposed expenditure was postponed as a result. After voting on the bill brought forward by Kenyatta, Gitobu Imanyara raised discrepancy questions as to what exactly had been approved by the House. It appeared that the parliament had approved a budget of 31 billion Kenyan shillings as opposed to 22 billion Kenyan shillings that they thought they were voting on, a difference of 9.2 billion. The Deputy Prime Minister initially defended the approval but later admitted that there were computer or typographical errors in the budget bill. Amid the raging debate about the contentious issue, the Speaker ordered the CID and the Parliament Committee to question him on the discrepancies. He was later cleared of any wrongdoing by the Joint Finance and Budgetary Committee. ICC charges. On 15th December 2010, prior to him becoming the president, Kenyatta was named a suspect of crimes against humanity by the International Criminal Court (ICC) prosecutor Luis Moreno Ocampo for planning and funding violence in Naivasha and Nakuru. This was in the relation to the violence that followed the Bangla national elections on December 2007. In furtherance of political support for Kibaki's PNU at the time, he was accused of organizing a Kikuyu political religious group, the Mungiki. In the post-election violence, overall, the post-election violence of 2007 is said to have claimed about 1,300 lives. Uhuru maintained his innocence and wanted his name cleared. On March 8, 2011, while serving as a minister in Kibaki's government, he was indicted after being summoned to appear before the ICC pre-trial chamber. He was to appear at The Hague on 8th April 2011 alongside 5 other suspects. On 29th September 2011, while seeking to exonerate himself, Uhuru Kenyatta put up a spirited fight as he was being cross-examined by ICC Chief Prosecutor Luis Moreno Ocampo in The Hague, denying any links with the outraged Mungiki sect. He said Prime Minister Raila Odinga should take political responsibility for the acts of violence and killings that followed 2011 presidential elections in Kenya. He told the three judges that by telling his supporters election results were being rigged, fund tensions, and they failed to use his influence to quell the violence that followed the announcement of the 2007 presidential results. Though Uhuru had previously dismissed ICC summons, he changed his decision along the way, together with his two other co-accused suspects, ahead of Civil Service Ambassador Francis Muthaura and former police commissioner Hussein Ali. The trio honored the ICC summons that sought to determine whether their cases met the set standards for international trials. On 23rd January 2012, the ICC confirmed the cases against Kenyatta and Muthaura, although the charges against Muthaura were subsequently dropped. Serious concerns about the case have been raised, particularly the nature of the evidence being used against Kenyatta. There were also serious concerns about witness tampering, and indeed a number of witnesses have disappeared or died, which is the reason cited by the ICC for dropping charges against Muthaura. On 12 October 2013, speech at the African Union in which he set a belligerent tone, Uhuru accused the ICC of being a toy of declining imperial powers. On 31st October 2013, the ICC postponed Kenyatta's trial for crimes against humanity by 3 months until February 2014 after the defense has requested more time. On 8th October 2014, Kenyatta appeared before the ICC in The Hague. He was called to appear at the ICC status conference when the prosecution said evidence needed to go ahead with the trial was being withheld. In a speech of the Kenyan parliament, Kenyatta said that he was going to The Hague in a personal capacity, not as a president of the country, so as not to compromise the sovereignty of Kenyans. Kenyatta did not speak in court but denied the charges in comments of journalists as he left the court to catch a flight back home. We as Kenyans, we know where we come from, we know where we are going, and nobody will tell us what to do, he said. The judges adjourned the hearings and charges were dropped on 13th March 2015. Let's move into the TNA, the National Alliance Party. On 20th May 2012, Uhuru Kenyatta attended the elaborately assembled and much publicized launch of the National Alliance Party in a modern high-tech dome at the Kenyatta International Conference Center. He presents the TNA launch was strong indication that he would contest for the party's presidential nomination ticket in his quest for the presidency in the 2013 general elections. The Justice and Constitutional Affairs Minister Eugene Wamalwa and Eldoret North Constituency MP William Ruto led more than 70 MPs in attending the function. The Speaker of the East African Legislative Assembly, Abdi Ramadan, Cabinet Ministers Mohamed Yusuf Haji, Jamlek Irungu Kamau, Dr. Naomi Shaban, Samuel Pogisio, Professor Sam Ongeri, and Dr. Mohamed Kuti, and MPs Charles Cheriot Keter, Aden Bare Duale, and Mohamed Malim Mohamud also attended the event. Speeches at the launch revolved around the need for thriving economy, the need for the rights of people of all classes in the society to be championed, the need for peaceful coexistence, the need for visionary and committed leadership, the need for transformative leadership, the need for a youthful crop of the committed professional in the leadership, the need for free and fair nomination and election processes in the general election, the need for an economy empowered youth, and call to bring an end to divisive and sectarian interest in politics and safeguard Kenya from sliding to dictatorship. Michael Waikenda was the Director of Communications and Secretary of Arts at the Entertainment of the National Alliance, and that was from April 2012 to August 2013, and he led the Media and Communication Department to the party during 2013 general elections. On 17th September 2012, the National Alliance Party had its first real test when it contested various convict and parliamentary positions in by-election that covered 17 seats in total, and 3 parliamentary and 14 convict. Overall, 133,054 votes were cast in the by-election, and TNA led the pack after it garnered 38.89% or 51,878 votes, followed by the Orange Democratic Movement with 33% or 44,837 votes. Party of Union Unity with 4.46% or 5,929 votes. Wiper Democratic Movement with 4.44%, which was 5,912 votes, and United Democratic Forum with 4.15 votes, which was 5,520 votes. TNA won convict and parliamentary seats in 7 different counties, while its closest challengers, ODM, won 4 counties, and the TNA Alliance remained a strong contender for the following year's general elections, having received a major defection from other big political parties of Kenya. The successful election of TNA's main candidates Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto continued to enhance TNA's viability. In January 2013, however, TNA merged with URP to form the Jubilee Alliance Party (GAP). In 2013, presidential election, Uhuru Kenyatta's party, the National Alliance (TNA), joined William Ruto's United Republic Party (URP), Najib Balala's Republican Congress Party (RCP), and Charity Ngilu's National Rainbow Coalition Party to form the Jubilee Alliance Coalition. Various opinion polls prior to the election placed Uhuru as one of the main contenders and its Jubilee Alliance as among the most popular. The other formable coalition was the Coalition for Reform and Democracy (CORD), which was led by Raila Odinga. In undercover video footage released in a BBC News report on 19th March 2018, the managing director of Cambridge Analytica, a political consultancy that worked to elect Donald Trump in 2016 American presidential election, boasted that his firm had run successful presidential election campaigns in Kenya in 2013 and 2017, though he did not name Kenyatta explicitly. We have rebranded the entire party twice, written the manifesto, done research, analysis, messaging turned bullshit of the campaigns that his economic managed in Kenya. I think we wrote all the speeches and we staged the whole thing. So just about every element of the candidate. A Jubilee Party Vice President admitted on 20th March 2018 that the party had hired an affiliate of Cambridge Analytica for branding in the 2017 election. Uhuru Kenyatta was officially declared the president-elect on Saturday, March 9th at 2:44 p.m. As per the IEBC official results, Uhuru got 6,173,433 of the 12,221 and 53 valid votes cast, ahead of the second placed Raila Odinga, who garnered 5,340,546, which was 43.7%. Uhuru's results was 50.51% of the vote and was above the 50% plus one vote threshold set out in the 2010 constitution, thus making him the president-elect. Results dispute. There was some discontent with the official results, as would be expected in such a hotly contested election, especially in Raila Odinga's strongholds. The ordinate delay in the releasing of the results and the technical failure of some safeguard and election equipment deployed by the IEBC did not help the perception that the election had been less and free and fair. Further, an exit poll conducted by UCSD Professor Clark Gibson and James Long, assistant professor and the University of Washington, suggested that neither Odinga or Kenyatta had attained the 50% plus one vote threshold. Analyses have contended that even though elections for 5 other levels were held in Kenya at the same time, their national turnout levels and total vote tallies were about 16% less than presidential total, e.g., while 10.6 million voters elected candidates for member of the National Assembly and the Senate, and the 47 gubernatorial seats, almost 2 million more voted in the presidential election. This has fueled a concern about the speculations of vote manipulation in the President Kenyatta's favor. Two groups disputed these results and filed a petition challenging various aspects of it at the Supreme Court of Kenya to contest the results. The groups were the Coalition for Reform and Democracy CORD, led by Raila Odinga, and the African Center for Open Governance, AFRICOJ. Uhuru Kenyatta and his running mate were respondent in these cases and were represented by Fred Ngatia and Karua respectively. In the Supreme Court judges anonymously upheld the election of Uhuru Kenyatta as Kenya's 4th president after rejecting Raila Odinga's petition in the verdict delivered on Saturday, 30th March 2013. Chief Justice Willy Mutunga, in his ruling, said elections were indeed conducted in compliance with the Constitution and the law. After the Supreme Court dismissed the petition, the swearing-in ceremony was held on April 9th, 2013 at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani, Nairobi, in accordance to Article 1412B of the Constitution, which stipulates that in case the Supreme Court upholds the victory of the president-elect, the swearing-in will take place on the first Tuesday following the 7th day following the date on which court renders a decision declaring the election to be valid. During the inaugural speech, Uhuru promised economic transformation through Vision 2030, unity among all Kenyans, free maternal care, and that he will serve all Kenyans. He also promised to improve the standards of education in Kenya during Madaraka Day celebrations at national holiday celebrated to the country's independence on 1st June. President Uhuru Kenyatta announced free maternal care in all public health facilities, a move that was welcomed by many Kenyans. On 1st September 2017, the Supreme Court nullified the re-election of Uhuru Kenyatta after the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission (IEBC) had announced him the winner on August 8, 2017. As a result of that, there was a need for the election to be held once again. It was scheduled on 26 October 2017. After the re-election, Uhuru Kenyatta emerged the winner once again. He was sworn in on November 28, 2017 for his second presidential term. In 2021, drought is again taking its toll. According to the UN, more than 465,000 children under the age of 5 are malnourished. Food insecurity affects more than 2.5 million people in the country. Uhuru Kenyatta speaks of a national disaster, and however, he is criticized for the slow humanitarian response and lack of planning. The Mukuru kwa Jenga slum in Nairobi is being raised in October 2021 to make a way for the widening of roads, leaving 40,000 people homeless overnight with no offer of alternative accommodation. Challenges. His major challenges include the high cost of living, raising public debt, a high public wage bill, and elections of corruption among people close to his government. The 2017 general election and its violence, it's also a challenge that threatened not only his presidency but also the future of East African Union. Public wage bill. The high public wage cost has a headache to Uhuru administration. At the start of his term, the president declared the high wage bill, which was at 12% of GDP, as against a recommended 7%. In 2015, the president stated that the wage bill was at 50% of the total annual revenue collection of government. In an attempt of catch-all it, the president announced a pay cut for himself and his cabinet in March 2014, reducing his salary by 20%. It was hoped that the high earners in the government would follow suit, but this did not materialize. Another measure was the newly created Constitutional Salaries and Remuneration Commission, which was hoped would regularize salaries, but it has faced an uphill battle against members of parliament who wish to protect their earnings and labor unions. The president thereafter ordered an audit of the government payroll so as to flush out ghost workers. The audit identified 12,000 ghost workers. In the meantime, lower country government workers have demanded pay raises, more so by teachers and health workers who have gone on strikes various times. They demand the increase. The strikes in the health sector mainly affect the country's Kenya's other level of government, as it is managed by the devolved units. Right, let's move into foreign relations. The president's foreign relations have been dominated by the ICC question. His relations with the West were expected to be cold, more so after the West warned Kenyans not to elect him as a president. The United Kingdom promised to have only essential contacts with him if he were elected. However, the relationship with the West has lowered significantly, and he has participated in the US Africa, accused his government of frustrating its investigations effort in the case, although it has absolved the president personally of any involvement in the frustration. His activities have, however, been more robust at the African level, where he has pushed more in intra-Africa trade and economic independence of African nations. In November 2014, he launched constitutions to reform the United Nations Security Council to expand the voice of Africa in the council. He has successfully railed the EU against the ICC, culminating in the extraordinary summit of the African heads of states, which resolved that sitting African heads of state should not appear before the ICC. The AU further asked the Security Council to suspend his trial at the ICC. For the first time ever, the Security Council's resolution was defeated by the abstention, with 9 members of the council abstaining rather than voting against, so as not to offend Kenyatta. The Assembly of State Parties of the ICC will 2 days later amend the ICC statute to allow for one to appear by video link, a proposal President Uhuru Kenyatta had made when he was a deputy prime minister. President Kenyatta has led a negotiated peace agreement in the South Sudan and in the Democratic Republic of Congo. At the East African level, he has developed a close relation with the Uganda President Yoweri Museveni and Rwanda President Paul Kagame, creating the coalition of the willing within the EAC that has signed on to more joint development and economic agreement than the other EAC partners, including a joint tourist visa. He attended the funeral of Nelson Mandela and was received warmly by the crowds. He also attended the funeral of President Michael Sata of Zambia in November 2014. However, it had been perceived that his administration's relations with Botswana were strained due to Botswana's support of the ICC process. He has since visited Botswana to remove this perception of Botswana voted in favor of the EAU ICC resolution. As expected, he has remained close to China, which is funding most of infrastructure projects. Foreign trips. In November 2020, it was noted that he was the most traveled Kenyan president compared to his predecessors. One of the leading national newspapers noted that Uhuru Kenyatta had been out of the country 43 times as of November 2015, in a period of about 3 years since he took the office in 2013, as compared to 33 times over a span of 10 years by his predecessors, Mwai Kibaki. The President's Strategic Communications Unit came out in defense of 3 trips, stating that these trips had yielded more than what it cost the taxpayers to finance them. Wealth. In October 2021, Kenyatta was named in the Pandora Papers. Leak BBC reported that the Kenya's offshore investments, including a company with stock of boards worth 30 million to 22 million, were discovered among the hundreds of thousands of pages of administrative paperwork from the archives of 14 law firms and service providers in Panama and the British Virgin Islands (BVI) and other tax havens. Approval ratings. His government's first year in the office received low ratings from the general republic. This is after a poll by Sinovet indicated that more than half of the population was unhappy with how the government had conducted its affairs. The same polls also ranked the presidency as the second most trusted institution after the media. After his appearance at The Hague for his ICC case, in October 2014, his poll rating improved to 71% according to the poll by Sinovet. A poll by Gallup in August 2014 put his approval ratings at 78%, giving him the third best job approval ratings among African presidents after Ian Khama of Botswana and Ibrahim of Mali. In 2015, due to allegation of corruption against some members of his government, his poll rating dropped to his lowest ratings yet at 33% according to Infotrack poll. By February 2017, his poll numbers had however risen to 57%. His poll numbers in 2018 will raise to 74% in a light of a renewed effort to battle corruption. Awards and decorations. Number 1. National Honors, Kenya, Chief of Order of the Golden Heart of Kenya. Foreign Honors, Barbados, Order of Freedom of Barbados in October 2021. Namibia, First Class of the Order of Most Ancient Meridians in 21st March 2019. Serbia, Order of the Republic of Serbia, Second Class 2016. On marriage, Uhuru Kenyatta has been married to Margaret Gaku Kenyatta since 1991. They have 3 kids, his 2 sons, Jomo and Muhoho, and a daughter, Ngina. Uhuru was re-elected for a second final term in 2017 August general election, winning 54% of the popular vote.